Right, I think we're live now, Emma.
Right.
Maybe get Maria in the chat if she'll confirm it. That she can hear us live. Then we can carry on.
Yeah.
I can't really see anything from her yet.
Should I quickly message her?
Yeah. I've not seen one from her yet, but
I'll just say, Maria, can you hear yours?
even the private chat is not from her, so yeah, even just get Maria to confirm it that she can hear us, then we can carry on. All right.
Right.
So yeah, Bill's right. So we'll be live. I think you just said there. So
are we?
Yeah, we're live. So
Are we?
right. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's do it then. All right, then, Emma. So we're talking about mostly Tinfoil's arrest this morning, which has raised a lot of questions, I think, in regards to his quick release and the Cleveland police force as a whole. So I first wanted to go back to as well, ask you about the night of the petrol bomb attack and stuff.
Right. Yeah, should I just give a quick rundown on what went on? So so we had the two windows attacked twice, and then when the first incendiary device hit the car, when Brian was on the live, obviously he was on the live. He went outside, and the car was smoking and exploding. Exploded. So Brian went back on the live, and obviously in the heat of the moment, said some things which anybody would do when the house.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we all heard it, didn't we?
Yeah. And when the house has been attacked and that many times, and then obviously that's happened, and they tried to get through the letterbox, which then becomes a little bit more serious, like if the dog
absolutely,
or an adult tried to get it off the dog, whatever, because it was lit. It could have been a lot worse. So they couldn't get through the letterbox, and they shot it into next doors. Now, unbeknown to Brian, I was on the phone to one of his friends, and they said, "Look, it's 3 times now. You're gonna have to phone 999." So at about 9 p.m, I'd say it was, I phoned 999 and said to the police, the house had already been attacked twice that week. And now there was an explosion in the car. At the time, I thought it was some kind of smoke bomb thing.
Incendiary device. Yeah.
Because the reason I thought it was a smoke thing was because there was one unexploded next to the door also. So when I went back on the camera, because we'd had cameras fitted, this is after the 999 call, I looked back, and obviously the explosion, as people will see on the videos, was really, really bad, and I didn't realise how bad it was. It was Brian and Bobby that were out there, obviously getting pieces of paper out that were on fire and stuff. So I was really, really shocked then, obviously. So still no police came. So Brian went off his live. I didn't tell him I'd phoned the police. And about 11 o'clock. Go on.
So he didn't know at that point that you'd phoned him then?
He didn't know, because I didn't want him saying, oh, what have you phoned him for and all that.
Right.
About 11 o'clock, I phoned him back and said, look, I phoned you earlier on. And when I've double checked on the camera, it's an explosive device, and there's still.
And this is roughly 2 hours after the initial phone call. Then, yeah.
And by that time, I'd obviously had a look into the car and seen there was many explosive substances and things that hadn't even gone off yet. There was like
gas canisters and stuff.
Gas canisters, light gas fluid. Paintbrushes of all things, and rags and this, that, and the other. So
Yeah.
obviously, I said to them when I phoned at 11, I said, it was an explosion. The policeman was quite patronising to me,
Right.
and he said, "Oh, what do you mean a smoke canister?" And I went, "No, I don't mean a smoke canister." I said, "I've looked on the camera. The car exploded. There was an explosion in the car. There was paper set on fire, and there's also like other things that haven't actually been set off. So you need to get the police out." So obviously we've got neighbours nearby and stuff, and anything going into a car to cause an explosion can be quite dangerous, as everybody
Yeah.
knows, causes petrol tanks and
Yeah.
things like that. So the next thing they said to me, "Someone will be out to you within a minute." I went, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, the police are on the way to you now." I said, "Oh, right, brilliant." So at that, there was a knock on the door, and I could see through the glass. There was obviously it was a police, because they have
Yeah.
light on the radio or whatever. So I opened the door and I said to them, "Oh, thank God you're here." I said, "I'll take you to the car." And they said, "We haven't come about that. We've come for, is Brian here?" And I said, "He's upstairs." And I said, "What do you want Brian for?" And they said, "We've come to arrest him."
Yeah.
So the next thing, they started walking up the stairs and they were in the passage and stuff. And I started trying to show the police lady the video I'd downloaded from our camera system,
Yeah.
which showed the explosion. She said, "Oh, sorry, I can't look at that because we're here to arrest Brian." So I thought, what on earth is going on here? Do you know what I mean? I've phoned 999 twice and now they're coming to arrest Brian. So it was really confusing at the time. And obviously my nerves were shot to pieces
Yeah.
with the whole scenarios going on that week as well. And obviously I'd realised I'd tried to get through the letterbox through looking at the video. So the next thing, Brian was brought downstairs, said that he was getting arrested for threats to kill on the failed Arthur and his wife. So
Right.
they said, "Have you been on a live platform tonight and stuff?" This is why they were in here before they got him in the van. So anyway, Brian went. I was too much in shock to hear too much more. Off he
Yeah.
went. So I was saying to
Naturally.
Bobby, what on earth are we going to do here? Do you know what I mean? There's no police coming out for us, but
Yeah.
they've took
Yeah.
Brian. So the house windows were boarded up anyway. We didn't feel safe, and plus I'd been added to a mad group on Facebook full of absolute lunatic trolls
Aye.
who
Aye.
seemed to know what was going on before it was going on. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there, as you've seen yourself, and there I've also were saying that they were going to do things with Eli and they were going to come through the back
Aye.
doors. So I said to Bobby, I said, "Let's get our coats on and get Eli wrapped up and we'll go and walk around. It'll be daylight soon," meaning we'll feel safer. Right? So we were just in the same street up and down, but obviously we'd been able to see any police coming to attend what I'd phoned up for originally.
Well,
So
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And this is bear in mind at this point there is still no response from the 999 call. So
yeah,
the first emergency call, there's been no response to that at this point.
not and the second one also,
Yeah.
because I'd phoned up and they told me that they were coming to the house, but what he failed to tell me was they still weren't coming to respond to my 999 calls. It was to arrest Brian,
Yeah.
right? So at this point, obviously, I didn't know what was going on with Brian, but I thought there's only one way in and one way out of where we live. So
Yeah.
if any police vans had gone past, they'd have had to come past where me and Bobby were walking.
Aye.
So I was talking to a few people on the phone, obviously. Didn't want to go back to the house. Just
Aye.
scared what to do and really, really confused. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to phone back to Middlesbrough. No, I phoned through to Stockton first, and they informed me that Brian had been taken to Middlehaven Police Station, which is in Middlesbrough.
Right.
So I asked to be put through to the custody and explained that he had medication for recent spinal surgeries.
Yeah.
that I was concerned about because they obviously hadn't took them. I explained that I'd serious concerns of. I'd phoned the police twice on a 999 call, explained this to the custody sergeant.
Aye.
I said I had serious concerns that there'd been an explosion at the property and 2 attacks prior. Even though I didn't report the windows because I knew what they would do, it would be like giving a crime number out and this, that, and the other. So I said, and they still haven't been out. And I said, there's still explosives in the car. She said, you need to phone them back. And she couldn't believe it, the custody in Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And she said, what? So they still haven't attended? And I said, no, but they've arrested Brian. So.
And did she not give you any indications as to contacts, like maybe the IPOC at that point or any point?
Nothing like that until right. So she told me that I was allowed to go down to the police station to take Brian's medication at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, aye.
Right, in a taxi. So I went down to take his medication. The next thing, I've gone back home and I've phoned 101 and I said, look, I said last night I've made 2 999 calls. I said to the house. I said, and no police have been out. So they said, right, so I had to go through all the scenario again. So they said, right, we'll get someone to get in touch. So I said, but there's still explosives in the car. I said, and they haven't. Some of them look like they haven't.
Yeah, it's
gone
a potential
off yet.
danger, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and plus there's people in the street. You're in like a residential area, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it. Yeah.
The next thing, still no sign. I got a knock on the door about 2 o'clock. Oh no, about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't see a police uniform through the door, and I didn't see a police car, like a marked police car.
Yeah.
So I shouted through the door, "Who is it?" Obviously, I'm not going to open the door, even though it was daytime. Because I was nervous, and they said police. I said, "Well, you don't look like police." I said, "Are you sure you're police?" Because obviously I'm going to be wary because of what's gone on.
Absolutely.
So they showed me the badge through the glass and I opened the door. So I said, thank God again, are you here for the car? Because I was a nervous wreck. I mean, two times windows had been put through. Then the car with the explosion, I was honestly in bits. And
I can imagine.
We're here because Brian's in custody. And I went, yeah. They said, because we're here to search the house for devices. So they produced the yellow sheets that they do on a search, and it was CID this.
Right.
So they wanted Brian's devices, and they said, I said, I can't understand why the police still aren't here about the car. She said, they had no idea, right? So they said, what do you mean about the car? And I said, well, went through all the scenario, explosion, 999 calls, and they were just like, they couldn't believe it either. They said, so there's no forensics been out. I said, nobody's been out. So I was advised by one of Brian's good friends to take a video of what was in the car because he really believed as well that the car would probably be taken away for forensics and stuff.
Yeah.
So that obviously that didn't happen. So I passed them Brian's devices. She said, look, I'm going to try and hurry this up for you because obviously the elements and the car windows being down start affecting evidence and stuff like that, don't they? So she said, look, someone will be out to you. 4:30 that afternoon, there was another knock on the door and the policeman stood there. So he said, oh, I've been told to come. I said, well, there's the car there. And I said, are you about the 999 calls? And he said, no. He said, I've only just got the call through today. I wasn't on shift last night. I don't know nothing about that. I've just got a call through from 101 to attend. And then obviously the CID who had Brian had obviously mentioned, someone needed to go out to the house.
Aye.
So I said,
and was Brian still in custody at this point? Yeah.
Brian's still in custody, yeah, like all overnight, and this is now like afternoon. So the next thing he said, well, if you can, I showed him the video what I had on my phone. This is all on the doorstep. I said, do you want to come in? And he said, no, I'm going to go and do some house-to-house inquiries. Right. So he said, Can I send you a link for you to upload the video? And then he didn't seem like too interested in what was in the car at all. So I
Right.
said, okay, yeah, I'll upload the video. So which I did. And then I just thought he was going to come back. And anyway, he didn't come back. And then about 8 o'clock, I think, that night, they said, oh, they rang me up and said, oh, did you leave Brian any money when you brought his medication down? I said, yeah, I think it's about 20 quid. I said, no, in case he needed a taxi. And they said, oh,
Yeah.
well, we'll get him a taxi. I said, it's all right, his friend's going to come and pick him up. So next thing, Brian came in, and obviously he was arrested for threats to kill on the fake offer and his missus. Now, the first name that was down on that was
Aye.
the fake offer and
Mhm.
his wife. At no time was there any children mentioned in this in the
Right.
sheet, right? Like as what's
Yeah.
been suggested. It's been suggested
Oh,
it was over
yeah.
a 15-year-old, and it wasn't.
Is this their 15-year-old that the
Yeah,
Mrs. Fake Offer has been shouting about? Right. Okay.
yeah. And I've also had people inboxing me and copy and pasting the message that she's been sending to people saying
Right.
regarding nothing to do with the fake offer. It's me, and it was threats to my 15-year-old son who was going through exams at school. Well, it was a Saturday,
I think I've
right?
seen that screenshot. I might
Yeah,
put it up on
yeah.
after this on yep
And
on
it was saying like something about the kids having to be the school having to be informed and stuff. But by
right.
this time it was a Saturday, so there was no school, and
Yeah.
they didn't come out to arrest Brian until about 11 o'clock or just after that night. So it was they were responding. I've
See,
since gone.
it's quite funny because excuse me, I've heard that the reasoning that Cleveland police have given for um, not coming to your original 999 call was because Brian was under investigation for the threats to kill.
Right, so
But
I'll get on
it's
to that bit now. So
yeah,
obviously I just couldn't understand any of it too. I was
yeah,
like thinking this is absolute bizarre. So Brian was out, obviously. He said they've put me on 3 months bail, took loads of devices out the house, and obviously was on bail for threats to kill, which is absolute insanity. That police have walked past a smoking car and boarded up windows and coming to arrest Brian for threats to kill. I just thought was insanity. So I just thought there's something going on. Something's not right. Next
aye,
day, phoned 101 again. So we now on to the Sunday, who then I was put in touch with the police complaints commission. I'd
aye,
also messaged, well, somebody had messaged me that knew the councillor for the area because obviously it been on the social media and stuff like that. And they said get in touch with the councillor for this area. He tried to email the police complaints department for the crime commissioner, and he was told not that he couldn't help us anymore, but we just had to email this another email address. So I
aye,
emailed this email address and said, I've been told to email you. She said, oh, yeah, one of our colleagues will be in touch with you. So this lady phoned us up, and she was a bit shocked at what was going on as well. So this is on the Sunday, the day after Brian's got out, yeah.
aye,
So she said, I'll look into it for you, and somebody will be out. So Monday comes, no sign. Even a few of our people that we know had got in touch with the police regarding what they'd seen online. The neighbours in the street had also phoned 101 that night as well, because one of the smoke devices was thrown lit into his garden when they couldn't get it into the letterbox. So
aye,
it's now I'm on phone to these crime commissioner people, and they said they're going to get it sorted out. So still, next week comes, no sign of it. right? So then I got
Right.
talking to her on the Wednesday when I phoned her up, and I said, look, what is going on? I said, I can't believe that this car is still here with all the homemade incendiary device in. Brian's on bail, and you still haven't sent anybody to respond to 999 calls. So she's tried to tell me that at the time of the 999 call, right, that they didn't have any vehicles. And I said, well, which 999 call are you on about? She said, well, all of them. And she said it goes in like when someone phones 999, you get put into an order of what's the most priority.
Well,
And
like
she
a
said,
triage system, isn't it? You know,
eh?
it's called a triage system
Right.
where they use it in hospitals and stuff when you go into A&E.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
similar
so,
to that.
so that's what she said. She said, and obviously yours wasn't classed as priority, and we didn't have many vehicles out at the time. So I said, well, let's go to the second 999 call then, when he told me on the phone, after being patronising and telling me it was just a smoke bomb, and I'd phoned him to say, no, I've looked at the camera and looked in the car, blah, 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 and it was more than that. So she'd said, well, we didn't have any response units in the area. I said, well, you must have, because you sent quite a few vehicles to arrest Brian at that
Aye,
time.
yeah,
So I said, don't you think that at least one of those vehicles, because obviously Brian
yeah,
had the operations and stuff, it's not like they needed all the vehicles. Wouldn't it have been right if one of the police in the vehicles that came stayed with me and asked me what had gone on? I said,
exactly.
it's an absolute like farce. I said, you've left two vulnerable people in the house with a dog walking the streets, right, fighting
Hmm.
to death to stay in the house.
Yeah.
So she said, I can understand what you're saying and stuff. She said, but I am going to chase it up. She said, I've asked CID to take a look at it today. But she said they're reluctant to get involved because they're already investigating Brian.
See, but that's what it gets weird because obviously, if they don't want to get involved because they're already investigating Brian, the attack on the car happened hours before
I know,
Brian made this alleged threats to kill. So,
I know.
do you know what I mean? It raises a lot of questions, doesn't it?
It does raise a lot of questions.
And I mean, it it it's certainly. I mean, we've been thinking this for a while now. A certain ex high ranking officer at Cleveland Police.
Oh, so
Um,
I'll get on to that bit. So on the last call I had with the lady from the police complaints, right?
mhm,
I said to her, look, there's something going on because Brian has been arrested for the fake author and his wife, right?
yeah, yeah,
And sent many response vehicles out at that time of night to detain him overnight.
yeah,
I said, but what worries me is that fake author is doing a book with one of the head of the major crimes at the time Brian
yeah.
and Lee Duffy were in action.
I mean,
Um,
and we can name him if you want. You know, if it's up,
yeah,
if it's
he's
up,
called Ray Morton,
Ray
right?
Morton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So she said to me, you know what? I said, well, the person who actually had Brian arrested for threats to kill, and it's definitely not just the wife, as was stated on a post of theirs tonight. It was the author as well had Brian arrested, and I will attach any screenshots anyone wants or whatever. So,
yeah.
um, the next thing she said, what's he doing a book about Ray Martin for? And I said, well, he's been in a documentary as well, and he's been on Sean Atwood
Yeah,
show.
can you tell the listeners about that actually? What was actually the information that was divulged?
Right.
The
So on the documentary of Lee Duffy and on in the books and stuff,
mhm.
this officer had told Jamie and told the viewers on the documentary about after Lee had died. And
Bearing in mind that anybody leaving the force is bound by the Official Secrets Act as well.
yes, that's what she said to me.
Yep.
So I said, he's explained on there how the place where they took obviously Lee after he died, his body. I said, and he's on there explaining all about that. I said, he's explained in depth to the author before he's even done his own book. He contributed a lot to lead up his book. She said, "Hold on a minute." She said, "Let me just check with this Met regulations, right?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
The
said she
guidelines.
said
Yeah.
that at no time can any senior ranking, especially, but any
Yeah.
officer retired or still active or out of the force, even if he'd been kicked out of the force, they were bound by Official Secrets Act, like you said, and they were not allowed to discuss cases whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she advised people to maybe look further into that, and of course Lee's family and stuff.
Yeah.
So then that was that. So she said, "I will pass it to the I piece. Is it the
It's,
IOP?"
I think they're called IPOC now. They used to be called the IPCC,
Mm-hmm.
but it's IPOC now. And
So
yeah, and rightly so, it should be passed to them.
yes,
And I think it's right that we think of and we mention, Lee Duffy's family, like Carol,
yeah,
at the minute who's going through
yeah,
a lot of trolling and stuff, and
yeah.
they just want their
I will
family name to be
mention.
left to rest in it.
Yeah, I will
Um,
mention Carol and that when I get over this one, because that's another subject and it'll
yeah,
get me off track. But so it went to them and they said to me, right, we'll pass it on, but I don't see what difference it's going to make because it's happened now. We understand. We can offer you like Visca counselling, emotional, like counselling type thing from the police for what you've been through, but we don't really understand what difference it's going to make now because it's over and they can't get forensics out the car because it's obviously been in the elements for too long. So
yeah,
I said, no, I still want to carry it on, right? So
hmm
she said, fair enough. So then I thought that was it. I would just wait to hear from them. The next thing on the Wednesday night, um, me and Bobby decided that it would be safe to go to Tesco and leave Brian
aye,
with the dog,
yeah,
um, and lock the door because obviously he can't get down. He was tired. If he fell asleep, he
aye,
couldn't always hear us to get down the stairs to open the door and stuff. So I thought I'll lock the door. We'll only be gone about half an hour, and we're only getting some like essentials and stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we'll be back. So as we were getting in the taxi to come home, Brian was like on the phone saying, "Where are you? Where's the key? I'm locked in the house." And something about a fire, right? And I could
aye,
hear like a load of commotion, saying, "Your house is on fire" and all that down the phone. So I was like, thinking, what am I going back home to? Do you know what I mean? I said,
shit, yeah,
I'll be there in a couple of minutes. So the taxi's pulled round, and knowing your heart goes into your mouth, it's like
you,
there was
yeah,
the whole
you
street was
know,
just like lit up like blue
yeah,
and flashing lights and all that. And I've come to go. The taxi obviously couldn't get down because there was like two fire engines, and then there was a police van, and then there was all the neighbours were out and things like that. And then
hmm
there was like other cars that were stuck trying to get down the road that couldn't get down. So we've had to get out at the end of the street. And as I'm walking towards the house, they've said, "Oh, you can't come any further." And I said, "I live there." I said that I've got the key. Do you know what I mean? So
aye,
they've then said, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have really had him locked in and all that." And then I could see all the smoke and like flames and that coming out of the
yeah, but
garage,
you
which
had
they
your
were still
reasons, didn't you?
attending to.
Yeah,
So I've opened the door, and obviously, luckily for Ryan and Eli, the neighbours had heard the motorbike. Apparently, a motorbike had come down the street really
hmm
loud,
yeah,
and the neighbours, obviously, with the attacks that had been ongoing, they'd obviously been on the ball, so
yeah,
they'd
yeah,
ran over with fire extinguishers. So there was about 4 different fire extinguishers got from neighbours who,
yeah,
while the police and fire brigade were being called off a neighbour, um, they were obviously trying to wake Brian up, but they were also obviously battling the
yeah, the fire as well,
the
yeah,
fire
yeah,
as
which is
well.
quite lucky, really.
Yeah. So um, when the fire brigade got there, they realised that the smoke that was coming out the garage, the inside of the garage was alight. So, and
Jeez.
I've got pictures like next to white spirits breakthrough it. I
Yeah,
don't know how it didn't like. Someone up there
I
must be looking
know.
after us because it was really, really close to all kinds of pipes and stuff.
Yeah,
So obviously the fireman's come in and said, I only fitted the letterbox. Oh, that's one thing they did do. They sent a fire brigade to fit a fireproof letterbox on
all
the
right, yeah, yeah,
Saturday. So he said, I only came on Saturday. He said, but I remember coming out to you a couple of years ago when you had threats to burn your house down, right? Now,
oh, right, yeah,
right?
but yeah,
So we
yeah,
had
yeah,
the evidence of the author's page,
yeah,
unique
yeah,
Facebook message ID number,
yep,
right? Of him admitting to someone giving Brian's address out, Brian's phone number, and
yeah.
saying torture him for a fight. And
I've
then
seen all them, yeah,
I've
yeah,
already had 2 people threatened to burn the house down. So I
mm,
obviously reported that to 101. No police
mm,
attended for that neither. And a fireman come out and put a smoke alarm in and a fireproof letterbox.
yeah,
Now, sometime after that, after being pulled in for malicious communication with Brian, which we were NFA'd on, by the way,
aye,
um, we then had enough and thought, right, so there was many of us tried to put a stop to this by putting statements in.
right. Was that the counter charge thing?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right, yeah, yeah,
So, and when it got to the certain police station in North Yorkshire, they were saying statute of limitations, this, that, and the other, which one barrister regarded it under like almost stalking of all of us, and there was no statute of limitations in cases like that. So the lot kept losing this Simon's witness statement, who he'd been the one that had been asked to make the phone calls to Brian. He didn't do the house burning down ones, but
aye,
the fake author admitted that he'd already had 2 people phone us and threatened to burn the house down.
mm-hmm,
Right. So, but nothing was done with that. So, and obviously Brian had the civil case going on.
aye, going on at the same
Which
time,
if
yeah,
you've seen the stuff, a lot's
yeah,
going on in
yeah,
the meantime. So as many other people.
mm-hmm,
So they're always trying to like say Brian put a statement in with his counter charging. What they're failing to tell you is we were taken into Stockton Police Station to answer charges of malicious communication. We were NFA'd. They'd also tried to get Terry arrested in this house before we all decided to put counter charge in. Now, out of all the names of all the people, guess whose name they picked to put in? Oh, Brian Cockerill's put a statement against me. No, 7 people did. There was Terry Dixon, Dave Thomas, Mark
Ted
Turner,
Dicko, yeah,
Carol Edwards, everybody. And it was always tried to be made out, oh, Brian Cockerill's put a statement in. No, you actually sent the police to our house to get
mm,
Brian and Terry arrested. I know it
yeah,
might sound a bit mad to people, but this is how mad the situation has been going on for like nearly
yeah,
3 years now.
yeah. But I
So,
think there was some people out there listening who will slowly be joining the dots together here and
mhm,
asking themselves
mhm,
questions. You know that a lot of
yeah.
this doesn't make sense. You know,
And
um,
everything I'm saying to you here, we have got evidence of all of it.
I
Like
you
we
have,
can back every single thing
yeah,
up saying.
and you know it's also funny how right. So let's look at it where we are at the minute. You've got everything that's happened against you is not being acted on by Cleveland police.
Well,
Not.
the only time they acted, right? So she told me that they couldn't get CID involved, but because they were investigating Brian, right? So they were reluctant to look at it because they were investigating Brian. So I said,
Well,
well, what does reluctant mean? I said, so it's not going to go further. She said, well, no. So she was sending it over to that place where we said the police complaints.
yeah,
And then that was that. So the last one was, so the fireman came in here with a policeman, and then obviously he'd just come on the shift as well. So he didn't have a clue what had been going on
yeah,
at the house,
yeah,
because when
yeah.
he looked in the computer, it was classed as the calls from the house that I'd made. That case had been closed and passed on to the complaints, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I then had to explain to him about them not turning up, and they were like, him and the fireman were like looking at each other in disbelief, as if to say,
It
like,
just,
what? It just doesn't make sense. So,
yeah, and it just makes you wonder, right? The fake author has this. He wrote a book for one of the highest ranking officers in Cleveland Police at the time. Obviously,
and there was another high
there was,
ranking
there was,
police
yeah,
officer
there
on
was
the
another copper.
documentary as well.
Yeah.
So,
So that's two coppers from the police force who will obviously have friends and family and contacts still
mhm,
serving within those police forces who
mhm,
could well be acting on the fake officer's behalf.
mhm.
On the premise that these coppers believe that they're going to get these massive book sales.
Yeah,
You
and
don't know what's been promised to them.
well,
Um,
well, he had actually started giving the fake author information for the Lee Duffy book, um, long before all this. So it was starting to make me wonder, and many other people wonder that, and people who'd been had issues, the same issues as us in the past with him, about him having to move houses, heard things about police handlers and all that. But you just don't think at the time until
I
obviously
know.
things started happening to us. And when I did mention that Ray Morton to the crime commissioner's office,
Yeah, yeah,
she was like, I said it's not like he's like, who can we say, like a real good author, like a renowned one, who you'd think if a high ranking cop was going to do anything,
yeah, yeah,
they'd go to like
exactly.
someone who was credible, like
Mm,
who's like
yeah,
um gonna check it all out for them, whose company's in company's house and stuff like that, and not
yeah.
just a two-bit company like that. But obviously he's ended up on the Sean Atwood show,
Which
which
I was
all of
just
them
about
do.
to say. It reminds me of something that Sean Atwood would do, and that would be promising people Netflix shows and all this sort of stuff. It's the exact same like MO, and it's funny you mentioned he ended up on Sean Atwood's show there. It's all connects in its own little way, doesn't
Yeah, it's
it?
weird. So anyway, this a cop who was here with the fireman. The
Yeah,
fireman said he deemed it critically high risk attack
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
gas pipes. So it was like deemed at, say, I think he said 9 or something like that. So this policeman who was sat in here trying to figure out what we were on about, like no response to 999 call and all that, and then obviously the house boarded up and stuff like that, and there's more fires. It was like crazy. It's like, look, when you walk up to their house, all the houses in the street are lovely, and you walk up to house, it looks like it's been a war zone. So
aye,
I was like, obviously a shaking wreck, again, because it happened again. And in the meantime, so he said, "Oh look, we've decided to now pass it on to CID, and there'll be somebody out in the morning." So when I walked out into the street with him, he said, "Do you know? Let me just like work out where cameras are," because he was going to knock on the doors that night, and there was
hmm
many witnesses that they were going to see who had footage. We had footage, and obviously we put that onto Facebook. It was
yeah,
shared along with the first one, shared all over, even onto places like TikToks and different things like that.
aye,
So the CI scenes of crimes eventually, the next morning I didn't get sleep till about 7 o'clock, because obviously I was a bag of nerves again, thinking, are they going to try and come in the back
yeah,
patio doors and stuff. So I got to sleep about 7 o'clock, and about 8:30 I was absolutely knackered. There's bang 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 at the door, and it was like, I said, who is it? And he said, oh, it's police. So I could see uniform. So he said, oh, I'm trying to see investigations. He said, I need to get into the garage and stuff and have a look. So the policeman had put the petrol bomb inside the garage for no, to wait for the police to come out and collect it the next day,
yeah,
because it had been passed to the CID. So I said, well, you're about 2 weeks too late for starters. I said, shouldn't you have been here 2 weeks ago? Because obviously it probably wasn't his fault, but I was just that sick. of and really let down by the police that to think that they hadn't responded to this initial thing that could have probably they got forensics off or whatever. So I
Mm-hmm.
just had no faith in them whatsoever. So then I said, look, you're going to have to come back. I thought, why should I knackered now start just because you want to turn up now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But he said,
exactly.
oh, no, this is about last night's incident and you're going to have to let us in because CID ran away. So 2 CID came into the house.
Yeah.
Brian was still asleep. He didn't get up. I didn't give any statement where I sat down and said who, when, or why. Right? It was like more. I was going on about them not responding to the initial 999 call. I
Yeah.
said some little bits of information. Quite a lot of people tried to get in touch with us on
Mm.
different social media platforms
Aye.
with information about all the attacks. Right? So I said, look, all I know is that it's serious and it needs taken seriously. So he said, yeah, we totally agree. He said, but it's it's in our hands now. So obviously we've got information that's coming anyway and lines of inquiries. So I said,
Aye.
well, what like? And he said, obviously we can't tell you. So off he went. So I think it was last week or I can't remember exactly when it was when the 2 kids got arrested. So they phoned up to say that 2 children, there'd been information from the public and that 2 children had been arrested by
Yeah.
teenagers. And they said that they'd given a frank and interview and they would be looking into it. Then they phoned
Yeah.
me up and said, it looks like what we were investigating from the public, as we've checked it all out, and it looks like these kids weren't involved, but our division still want us to go ahead with the rest of the
Right.
people who were mentioned when we went to arrest the 2
Aye.
children, because they did say there was 3 other people that they tried to arrest, but they couldn't tell us who until obviously they'd arrested them,
Right.
right? So then today, I got a phone call to say that they'd arrested the fake author, right, this morning. This is
Yeah.
about dinner time, about 1 o'clock maybe. They said they'd arrested the fake author, and I was quite shocked at that.
Yeah.
And they said they'd gone through his phone to see if there was anything re getting the house done. And I said, what do you mean gone through his phone? They said, well, we just looked through it. I said, oh, so you're not keeping his phone like Brian's in? Because Brian's had been kept for 3 months. Do you know
Aye.
what I mean? So I thought,
Exactly.
if you're going to arrest someone, you actually send the phones off, don't you, or do whatever.
Yeah.
That's the usual case.
Well,
So
exactly. In 90 days is probably normal a short period for it. You can wait up to about
mhm.
6 months to a year sometimes
Yeah, yeah,
to get
yeah,
devices back. But for how for this the fake author this morning to be arrested and his phone to be looked at and then released a couple of hours later. I mean that's like me,
well,
right?
yeah,
I could send you a barrage of threatening messages, right, and then delete them from my phone. Next thing, Bobby's come to my door and look at the phone, see no messages, and then
mhm,
just assume then that I've not sent any. Whereas
yeah,
if the phone was taken away and analysed, you would still see all the messages.
yeah,
So that's what seems to have happened with the fake author's phone this morning. I think anyway.
yeah, yeah. Because
Um,
when I got that phone call, that must have been about I think I was talking Ria. It must have been about 1 o'clockish or half one.
mhm,
Um, so they said that the line of investigation that they've been given off the public, and they said they'd received them names more than once, right? So they'd acted upon them. So they
yeah,
said obviously it didn't come to anything. So I just thought, oh, that all sounds mad because we didn't even I think anything like that. Do you know what I mean? The police have acted upon their intel because obviously when it goes to CID, they just do their own thing. It doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
What I'm going on about police complaints, or whether I think it's this one, that one. They do their own stuff because
Yeah.
they're pretty switched on at the job site. So
Well. Mhm.
usually, like, that's what you think. But
Yeah. That's
anyway,
what I like to think
so
anyway.
so they said, so just letting you know that obviously we'll be probably hearing more stuff and getting more stuff in, and we'll let you know if we get any more leads. So I said, oh, thank you very much, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? I just thought, oh, what's the point
Yeah.
in even going into things? So in the meantime, Terry Dixon's house.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Forgot about. That's right.
so
His
yeah, so
his house got attacked. Aye.
yeah, so when I got the phone call, because Terry had lost his phone and he was at his girlfriend's, so his neighbour, the only way she could think of was getting into contact with us was getting in touch with Brian.
He's a nice man, Terry. I like
Yeah,
him
he
as
is.
well. You know.
Yeah, he is. So she rang me up and she said, look, she said, I'm Terry's neighbour. She said, last night, 10 o'clock, same time as I was on the motorbike, a really loud motorbike came down the street. Right, and she
Aye.
said, it's like, oh, theirs is like a one-way street as well. And
Mhm.
she said, she explained the bike, and I said, do me a favour, will you go on to our channel and have a look at our videos? And she didn't have a clue about YouTube, so I sent her it. She said it was exactly the same bike. I'd gone to Terry's and obviously tried to put stones with Brian Cockerill and
Aye.
Terry Dixon wrote on and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I just thought, that's absolutely crazy, because I hope they don't even attempt poor old Marty Turner's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously it
Aye.
seems that people who have been in some kind of civil action with these people
Mhm.
are um,
Seem to be
being
targeted,
targeted
don't they?
with with stuff. So I don't know. I haven't got a clue. All I know is that for the last 3 years we have lived a nightmare.
Aye.
And you've seen all the stuff that goes on in the background. You've
Aye.
seen the messages that
Yeah.
Brian receives on a daily basis. And I know 1,000,000%, right, from the amount of people that have come forward regarding these people, right, that these are prolific trolls, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
there's been many people. Quite funny, because Dale was mentioned on a video of Brian's prior to the attack.
Right.
And then he started getting phone calls, like dodgy phone
Aye.
calls again and
And
stuff.
and
Do you know what
and
I mean?
the stuff that guy got sent him for trolling and stuff was absolutely relentless on it.
Relentless. And
It was
he
astonishing.
had cancer, and he was like,
Aye.
it was
Aye.
really bad. He was like, looking, they didn't think he was going to make it.
Yeah.
And there was things coming directly from the said
Yeah.
person,
In
obviously
fact,
showing
I
WhatsApp and
think
everything.
I put something out before on the first two media channel, but if it's alright, I might be deal. I might just um put some more stuff out again on that, just to keep
Yeah,
people reminded of what the fake author gets up to.
yeah. And
Um,
even like Ben Doherty, I can remember, he's a boxer from like London.
yeah,
And he's like really, really respected man. Now I didn't know him or anything. It was when we were going through all this garbage, he said, one of my prolific, and he's Ben's not a type of person. If you ever look at his posts, it's all like positive stuff and helping kids
aye,
boxing that. And one day I seen my prolific internet troll, the fake author, named him, um, and said, for years I've never even met him or laid eyes on him, and for years he's trolled me. Um, Many other people who probably
mhm,
won't like to admit it,
yeah,
right? But were that relentlessly trolled off them that they had to be
mhm,
okay with them,
I
because
know,
it was affecting their channels and
yourself,
stuff.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So this isn't just like all in Brian's head and all that, like all these
yeah,
channels and all that are making out. I mean, uh, it's they are relentless trolls. They relentlessly trolled a 76-year-old man and actually told us that Marty had
Disgusting.
died at one point. And Brian was really upset because they'd actually said Marty had died.
Ah,
Do you know what I mean? And Marty's still going ahead with the case. Since then, I found out all sorts. It's like the company, the whole company, is an absolute total joke, right? Am I
yeah.
right? I'm repeating myself, Anna. Now. Have you put some headphones in too?
Hang on.
Have you put some headphones in too?
Yeah, I did a second ago. Right, I think my battery's dying as well, you know, and look how much left on it, you know.
Yeah. So, but this company is absolute joke. That Warcry Publishing didn't even it wasn't even in company's house.
Yeah, I know.
You've got
I
the
seen
likes
the.
of Paul Sykes. I'm just trying to get it out fast before you parasite. But
I know.
Paul Sykes wrote his own book in jail. He got a Kessler Award for it. They had a dodgy solicitor signed because obviously it'd been out of print a while. He'd been dead. Signed it
Right.
over. They've changed the spin on a few things. So them books are
Okay.
actually written by Paul Sykes himself. It's just an absolute farce from start to finish. Nobody gets paid, and then when they try to do something about it, they get prolifically trolled.
Yeah.
Oh, but the
Yeah.
police don't seem to want to touch them for some reason.
I know, and that's what I think needs to be looked at and questioned by the public more. The police have a duty to protect and serve. They're employed by the public. And there's a lot of questions that the public are bound to ask them. And they should answer it. So yeah, I think we should. I think that more people need to be aware of what's going on here.
Yeah. But
I
seeing
think
his post tonight, sorry, Truth, brought in,
go
but
on.
seeing his post tonight and saying, I can't speak because my wife has a ongoing investigation. No, you
Yeah,
can't speak because you phoned the
he
police on Brian.
yeah,
Right?
it's him that's got the case, not Shirley. That's right, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's him and her. Do you know what I mean? Brian's
Yeah,
that have got the threats to kill. So he
eh,
makes out himself all the time that he's nothing to do with it, and it's all to do with
yeah.
her.
So
But no, your name's the first one on Brian's bail sheet, right? So
yeah,
it's like, and to say that somebody's been into a place that they've just looked through a phone, that's like really, really worrying. I
yeah,
wasn't aware that he was going to be arrested. We have not put a statement in to say
yeah.
that was them or
Them
anything,
or whatever.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
the police wouldn't, CID wouldn't have acted on the hearsay, they've acted on information and they've carried it through, but they obviously haven't done an intense and thorough job, like
yeah.
obviously they do
Exactly.
with
Yeah,
Brian,
yeah,
because
yeah,
they've took all of his devices and they're still keeping them. But you see posts like that, and then you've got people like undergoing that stuff, messaging underneath, and she's had a lot to say lately. I'm sorry,
Well,
Anne, but this is directly to you from me, not off anybody
yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah,
But you've had
yeah,
a lot to say, but you don't know what goes on in the background. It's like a lot of these people have got a lot to say, but they haven't got a clue what has actually been going on.
yeah. They've got
And
nothing to say, and they're saying it too loudly. That's what's happening.
yeah, and I just think that I
Um,
need to get all of these. I've been saying it for some time now. I just need to get everything out. Maria's
yeah.
got the whole lot of it in a Google Drive,
She has
right?
done. She's done a great job of that, by
Yeah,
the way.
and she's got the full lot, and I just want the lot to go out to actually
Yeah,
see. And this is direct stuff off these people,
and out
and
it will
their
go. Yeah,
frames, their windows and car was done, and the finger was pointed towards us uh,
right.
about 6 months ago, I think it was, saying, "Oh, first of all, saying we knew no, it was Brian." Then it was when obviously people were saying Brian's like had the operations. How the hell's he going to run down the street?
Yeah,
It was said, "Oh well, I know it wasn't BC, but he's got people to do it and stuff like that." Do you know what I
right,
mean? Like, hold on a
right.
minute, what the heck's going on?
Right. Shit, Emma, listen, my battery's going to go. I'm on 1% and it'll cut out in any minute now. So I'm going to have to end it on this phone. I could maybe have her jump back on and pick it up on my other phone, or we can maybe schedule another one for tomorrow, whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we do that?
Definitely. Yeah, because I want to
Yeah.
get into more of this Ray Martin stuff and
Aye, and
different stuff
and
like that.
the other members of the circle.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I'm
Pick it up on
yeah,
my other
definitely.
phone, or we can maybe schedule another one for tomorrow, whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Because I want the lot to come out, but it's crazy, and I just see posts like directing like Brian's had people arrested. No, well, where's your statement then? And hold on, why were you only in a police station a few hours? Why isn't your phone being kept? Why isn't this? Why isn't that? There's too many questions, but there he is again, insinuating Brian has phoned the police him. Brian has not put any statements in about anybody. This was all done, as I say, by fire brigade and CID.